The job that you work in can easily replace you just like that. Being too nice will get you nowhere, because you work hard for that money, you suffer for that money, you have no breaks for that money, you have no toilet breaks for that money. So how are you then suffering every single time?
It's not that I don't want you here, it's something about the way you stare.
Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to yet another video. For those that are new here and you don't know who I am, my name is Nadine and I'm a qualified midwife here working in the UK. So in today's video, as you guys can tell by the title, I'll be discussing the things that I've learned as a qualified midwife and the experiences that I've been through as a qualified midwife. So I've been working as a qualified midwife for the past 3 years now, so I'm not really considered as a newly qualified midwife anymore, but I still have a lot to learn. I still have a lot of experiences to go through in order for me to be, you know, seasoned or senior midwife. But I've been in this game for the past 3 years, so there's a few things that I've learned which I hope to share with you guys in today's video. So if you guys like the sound of that and you're intrigued to know what I've learned, what I've picked up and the experiences that I've gained over the past 3 years, please do give this video a thumbs up, share, comment, subscribe, do all of that good stuff. But without further ado, let's get started with today's video. And I also have my Dior here on my lap. She just wants to sleep as I film. She's just chilling and enjoying life. So the first lesson that I learned as a newly qualified midwife is you have to give yourself some grace. You have to allow yourself to make mistakes. As a newly qualified midwife, you are going to make mistakes and it's okay. As long as they are not life-threatening mistakes, it's okay to make mistakes so you can learn from those mistakes and also grow from your mistakes. Mistakes will happen. Even though I've been working as a qualified midwife for the past 3 years, I still make mistakes and I still allow myself to grow and be taught from the mistakes that I have made. So that is my first and most important advice in terms of what I've learned, is give yourself some grace, allow yourself to make mistakes if they're not life-threatening, and learn from your mistakes and better yourself in terms of what that mistake has taught you and how you're going to improve in your practice in order for you to become a successful and better midwife in the near future. So the next lesson that I've learned as a qualified midwife is to make sure that you take care of yourself while working those long 12-hour shifts. And what I mean by that is make sure that you have your allocated break, whether you get a tea break or a lunch break. Make sure that you take that and look after yourself. Make sure that you go to the toilet when you need to go to the toilet. Don't hold your urine for the whole 12-hour shift. Don't overextend yourself. There's nothing worse than struggling through a 12-hour shift without having gone to the toilet for the whole 12 hours or without having eaten anything or drank anything, because you're overextending yourself. You're overgiving yourself for the people that you're caring for your colleagues, for your managers, for your matrons. If you feel good, you will excel in your practice. You will give the best care because you've eaten, you've hydrated, you've emptied your bladder, you've given yourself that time to look after yourself. Do not neglect yourself while working those long 12-hour shifts, because it will put a strain on yourself. It will make you burn out. It will make you hate what you do. It will make you sick. It will impact your health, your mindset, your physical ability. It's very, very important, and it will help you in the long run in terms of navigating and progressing in your midwifery career as a midwife. So the next thing that I learned is being too nice will get you nowhere. So overextending yourself and not setting boundaries where you work and being the nice person or the too nice person or the yes person will basically impact you in a negative way. So you have to be able to set your boundaries and know when to say no to certain things at your workplace. People will eventually take the piss and allow you to do certain things knowing that you're not supposed to do them, but they will do that because you are seen as the nicey person, the person that constantly says yes, that hasn't set any boundaries in the workplace. You need to be able to give yourself that grace to put those boundaries up and make sure that people respect you in that aspect and know that your boundaries are your boundaries and they cannot overstep. So the next tip that I quickly learned, or the next lesson that I quickly learned, is document every single thing that you do on your shift in terms of the care that you provide for the people that you're looking after. And what I mean by document documenting everything is. If you give a woman breastfeeding support, if you remove a catheter, if you remove a cannula, if you give medication, if you do an examination, if you do anything on your shift that has to do with the patient, make sure that you are documenting every single thing and in detail, because if you haven't documented, then it hasn't happened in the eyes of the law. So if anything happens, if anything goes wrong, if someone didn't receive a certain medication because they asked for it and you didn't give it, if you had documented and that you've given it and you've actually given it, obviously don't document it if you haven't done it, but if you've given a person a medication because they've asked for it, then you've documented it. When they then come back and say, when I was in labor, I wasn't given the medication that I asked for, or I wasn't given the pain relief that I asked for, and you are going to be supported by your documentation. If it wasn't documented, then it hasn't happened. So that's one thing I've learned. In order for you to protect yourself and what you do and how you care for patients, it's important that you document everything and document everything in detail, so that there's no gray areas, so that there's no questions, so that there's no confusion. Some people can actually forget things that you do for them. For example, I had a woman that I supported with breastfeeding. I supported her for a good hour and a half with breastfeeding, and while she was struggling with breastfeeding, I gave her advice, I gave her tips, I supported her with latching her baby, I supported her with feeding in general, and obviously I documented that whole procedure and what I did, what I said, everything I documented in detail. The next couple of days after this woman was discharged, she then told the managers that she was never supported with breastfeeding while she was on the ward, and I was like, wait, hold on a minute. I supported her with breastfeeding, and my manager turned around and looked at me and said, well, we're gonna have to go through your documentation and see whether that happened or not. So my manager went through my documentation and it was there in black and white that I supported her with breastfeeding, what I then said to her, what advice I gave to her, what I observed, what I experienced, the breastfeeding assessment which I did, everything was there in black and white documented. So when they then spoke to the mother and they explained to her, this is what happened at this time, at this day, the mother was like, oh yeah, I remember, oh yes, she did help me breastfeeding, I completely forgot. So imagine if I didn't have my documentation there to kind of back me what I was saying, it would basically be that I was lying, or that I didn't support this woman, that I didn't offer the support that she was seeking, because she generally forgot that she was supported throughout her whole time on the postnatal ward, and she basically made a complaint that she was never supported. But when she was then reminded and she was shown the evidence, she then remembered that I had supported her with breastfeeding. So things like that actually help. That is an important thing that I have learned as being a qualified midwife, is to document everything that you do and document everything in detail. Protect yourself, protect your NMC pin by documenting everything thoroughly and in a lot of detail. So another important lesson that I learned as a midwife is self-care is super important as a qualified midwife. So making sure that you have the time out for yourself when you're not working is super important. Make sure you have the time to take care of yourself. Do the things that you enjoy. Go out with your friends, go out with your families, go out with your husband, your partner. If you're in a relationship, make sure that you take care of yourself and you allow yourself to breathe outside of the world of midwifery. Midwifery and being a midwife takes a toll on you as a midwife. A lot of midwives can experience burnout because of the amount of work that we have to do and how heavy the shifts can be on a day-to-day basis. So one thing I encourage and that I recommend is making sure that you take care of yourself. That self-care is super important. So the next lesson I learned is to save your money as a qualified midwife. If you're newly qualified and you're now seeing those coins pile up in your bank account every single month and you're getting excited, you're going on trips, you're buying new bags, new shoes, new hair, new makeup, the lesson I learned is to save your money for things that you want to achieve or do in your life. Don't spend your money as quickly as you get it. So as soon as you get paid, make sure that you don't spend your entire income on lifestyle or enjoyment. All your money is done and you're waiting for the next paycheck for you to kind of like survive and do the same thing again. So make sure that you save your money every single time that you work. If you're saving towards a house, for example, make sure that you're putting a majority of your income aside in order for you to buy that dream home that you want to buy. Make sure that you are being wise with your payments, being wise with the money that you make, and not just spending it, because you work hard for that money, you suffer for that money, you have no breaks for that money, you have no toilet breaks for that money. So how are you then suffering every single time you spend that money and it's all gone, and you're having to like borrow from friends, you're having to go into your overdraft, you're having to get loans because you've spent all that money? And don't overspend on unnecessary things that you don't need, so that you're constantly having to live paycheck to paycheck. So another lesson that I learned, this is a funny one because this one was very frustrating and very annoying, is remember to pay your NMC PIN on time or set up a direct debit. When you qualify and become a qualified midwife, you have to join the NMC register in order for you to work as a midwife here in the UK. So once you are registered under the NMC PIN, you're therefore able to work and care for women in the UK. So being on the NMC register, you have to pay a fee of £120 every single year to remain on the NMC register. When I was a qualified midwife, I paid that initial payment to join the register, and then I was chilled. I forgot to set up a direct debit so that it just basically comes out of my account when it's due. I was like, you know what, I'll remember to pay it. They'll send me an email when it's almost due, so I'll just pay it when the email comes in, or I'll just set a reminder on my phone. So the time came when the payment was due and I had completely forgotten about it. And when you don't pay for your registration, they take you off your registration. So you are no longer registered as a midwife in the UK. Therefore, you cannot practice and work as a midwife if you haven't paid to remain on the NMC register. So that happened to me. And what that meant is I couldn't work as a midwife until I re-registered again. And re-registering again can take several weeks. It can take even months for them to re-register you on the NMC register. So my manager sent me an email saying we have had a notification that you are no longer on the NMC register, therefore you can no longer work as a midwife until you are back on the register. So what they then had to do is use my annual leave on my rota while I waited to go back on the register to be able to work. So I basically wasted my annual leave because I wasn't on the register. I was sitting at home reapplying for the register. So that was a big lesson that I learned, is to make sure that you set up a direct debit for your NMC payments every single year so that you don't forget. So my last and final lesson that I've learned as a qualified midwife is that you are replaceable. The job that you work in can easily replace you just like that. So make sure that you give yourself grace. Everything that I've spoken about in this video previously, make sure that you take everything into account. You are replaceable. There's someone there waiting to basically replace you and do the job that you're doing. Your manager can easily get someone else, they can hire someone else. There's always a midwife coming up that can easily replace you and do what you're doing. So make sure that you look after yourself. Take that break. Take your annual leave when you need to take your annual leave. If you need to call in sick, call in sick. No one is going to prosecute you for calling in sick. If you're not well, you're not well. There's some people that constantly work and never have a day off because they are too scared to take that day off, or they want to overdo it, or they want to overstretch themselves, or they're being the nicey person. Just make sure that you are looking after yourself and make sure that you are thinking about number one, which is you. So as soon as you leave and hand in your resignation, they have someone else lined up to take over your position and basically make up that numbers. But that is it for today's video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you guys have more lessons or things that you've learned or picked up on the way, please do comment that below. I'm more than happy to read them, share them with you guys, maybe in the next video. If you guys would like a part 2, I'm more than happy to film that. I'll see you guys very soon in the next video. So until then guys, bye for now.